What is up, everyone? We are now on lesson 3 of chapter 6. Let's get right into this. We've been working on ratios and equivalent ratios in the past couple lessons, and now what we want to do is expand on that. So today we're going to start working on percents. So let's get into this and understand what percents are. In the previous chapter, we learned that part-to-part ratios, so let's take this, that, part-to-part ratios would be something like saying there is one black dot or circle to two red circles. If we did part to whole, can you guys guess what the part to whole is if we talked about the black dot? Yeah, you're right. It would be one black dot to three whole circles. Now, percents is basically comparing a part-to-whole ratio that has 100 equal parts to it. Let me give you an example. Are you guys able to read this ratio? This is 25 to 100. That's the ratio. It could also be written as 25 out of 100 parts. So the 100 would be the whole. Or it can be written as 25%. And there we go. That's the percent that we're going to be working on today. Let me make it bigger. You guys have seen percent. And you'll understand the word percent actually comes from out of 100. The word cents is 100. Per is out of. So out of 100. Anytime that you have a whole of 100, which is this, a whole of 100, anything that is out of 100 will be the percent. So if this number right here was any other number other than 25, for example, let's just erase this for now. If that number on top was 14, then you would know that it would be 14% because it is 14 out of 100, and the ratio would also be 14. Something just like that. All right. Now let's take a clear page. That's better. Now we're going to take a look at ratios and equivalent ratios of trying to change something from, let's say, something out of 10 to make it out of something out of 100. And that would make it out of, make it a percent because everything is out of 100. Okay, let's pop a grid up on here. All right, so here's our grid, and can anyone tell me what the ratio would be of the squares that are filled in to the squares that are not filled in? Press pause and try and find that out. So if we're doing pink squares to squares that are not filled in, which are the white squares, we would have 1 to 9. Now that's part to part. Can anyone tell me what the part to whole ratio would be of unfilled squares to squares? Press pause. All right, if you said that there are 9 unfilled squares to whole squares, it would be 9 to 10. Now, what would the equivalent ratio be that we would need to get it to 100? Now let's keep building on this. Let me just delete this, get rid of that. If this is 1 to 10, we would need something out of 100 to find out what it is to get a percent. So let's keep adding these, and I'm going to duplicate it, and we'll continue to add these ratios because they're going to be equivalent. So I'm just going to keep multiplying it and adding on to this. We've just added another grid, and now we have two, we have two 1 to 10 grids. If we put them together, what would the ratio be of pink squares to all squares? Press pause and try and figure that out now. You got it. It's 2 to 20. If I added another one, we would get 3 to 30. If I keep adding, you'll see I'm just adding another 10th strip. And let's add those strips right now. As you can see, we've got 4 shaded. And if I counted up all the different squares, I'd have 10 here, 20, 30, 40. So the whole number of squares would be 40, and there are 4 shaded squares. So part to whole. And our goal to get a percent would be 100. So we would need how many more? Because if you have 40, we need 60 more. So let's keep adding squares until we get to 100. So now what we have here are there we go. There's a red dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shaded squares. We know that there's 100 of these squares. So if we wrote our ratio, it would be 10 shaded squares to 100 regular squares, part to whole. What that would mean is the fraction would be, let's write it on the side here, 10 shaded squares out of 100. And if we know that it is out of 100, what did we say? A percent means out of 100. We have how many percent? You got it. 10%. So the amount of shaded squares here is 10%. Now, you're going to go into your textbook, numbers 3 to 16. I think you will have a fun time doing this. You're going to count squares, you're going to shade some squares in, and it's going to test you of how to make some ratios into equivalent ratios to get it out of 100. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in class. If not, I would suggest to go back onto this video and rewind onto the parts that you are unclear about. All right, have fun with percents.